Hi there, it's Mark at Saw Sharp. We're going to clean up a really nasty, dirty saw today, and with some common sense cleaning techniques that I'll pass on to you here. Let's start here by looking at the supplies. Well, this is my cleaning station, all right? You see I've already started here on this V8 plate. You can see all that rust that's coming off it right now. I'll start off on the opposite side, but let me just give you an orientation first to what I have going on here. It's just a Rubbermaid cart, with the synthetic plastic, and it's a surface I don't mind getting dirty for starters. You know what the most important component is? That's a spray bottle full of isopropyl alcohol, just plain old alcohol that you get at anywhere, Bad X resale products here, the Metal Renew, that's a company out of the Twin Cities here in Minnesota. We got Spray Bees, aerosol delivered beeswax. We've got a Sandflex block, rubberized grit, and some rubber. We've got little mini scrapers you can find anywhere, plastic scrapers, good old WD-40, a roll of paper towels. These metal finishing pads from Ace Hardware I'm particularly fond of. That really gets a lot of the junk off. And then some little sanding pads, the sponge type. So this is primarily what I use. Now let's see it go into action. You'll be surprised at how much alcohol alone gets rust off a saw. All right, let's start off here. You'll notice that I put on some nitrile gloves. These things saves your hands. I've already started here on this saw, but look what happens when I simply use alcohol to get rid of rust. Look at this. See how much crap that's getting off? You don't necessarily have to use, pick a metal polishing product of your choice. There's a bunch out there. Just alcohol alone gets the lion's share of rust off. You may notice how I take one of these finishing pads, I cut them up into quarters, wrap them up in a section of a tooth guard or just a piece of wood, and have at it. It just works wonders. Having a little stick of wood behind your scrub pad really adds to the scrub factor. And you can see here it's getting pretty clean. I mean, we still have work to go. I'm going to do the other side next. But I'm actually starting to see bare metal now, where before it was just completely encased in rust. Okay, so here I haven't touched this side of the plate yet. So just watch how much of an impact alcohol alone has on cleaning up a saw plate. I just started doing this not that long ago, about a year ago. I started using alcohol just on a whim to see exactly what it would do. And just look at it. You get a little piece of wood with your scrubby pad and really put some effort into the scrubbing action. All right, that raises quite a bit of rust. Plain old alcohol. Now let's wipe it off and see what we've done. Starting to make a dent. You're going to find some saws that's got like splotches of paint or perhaps a rust buildup. Just carefully work that with your razor, all right, to get that sort of thing off. And just scrape it off. Be mindful of scratching the saw plate. That's a possibility when you do that. There we go. Getting the lion's share of that paint off. Handy little scraper, these razors. Now let's hit it some more. Let that alcohol work in there. So I won't bore you with doing the entirety of this plate on video, but I think you get the gist of it. Key takeaway here is, yeah, alcohol is your friend, and it's not nearly as toxic as other materials that you may wind up breathing in. I'm going to do the rest of this plate now and take you to the next step shortly. All right, so I've spent about 15-20 minutes just using alcohol and a scrubby pad to get this plate to where I can see, maybe about 40-50% of bare metal on it behind the rust. And I think I'm going to stop with the alcohol for now. I'm going to use some of this Wizard's Metal Renew polish. Now, this is not some secret sauce stuff. There's lots of like type products out there that will remove rust. This just happens to be a local to the Twin Cities product that I've used for the past 15 years, and I get a pretty good result out of it. But none of this is intended to convey this is Mark Harrell's one true way to clean a saw plate. This is just the way I do it, and it's proved useful in the past, so this is what I'm sticking with. You don't want to just go willy-nilly with this stuff. Just, that's about enough, what you see right here. You know, just kind of cover the plate with this stuff, just enough to cover the plate. And then do the same thing here with the stick and your scrubbing pad. Once you get a base layer of the junk on there, hit it. So I'm going to spend the next 10 minutes now scrubbing the plate with this product after I've had my way with the alcohol. Metal here on this completely rusted out saw plate. I'm hitting it once more with alcohol just to kind of clean it up before moving on to the next step. Once you get to this stage, you see we're still picking a lot of rust off this plate. You know, the intent is never to get it parade ground mirror bright like the drill sergeant's going to come inspect your uniform. The intention is to simply get rid of the rust scale, and because rust invites friction in the cut. So all we're doing is just mitigating cut friction by getting rid of the rust, or as much as we can. You know, the black stains will always be there. You'll never get it bright again for saws in this condition. But now I'm just going to put on a minimal amount of Wizards, and I'm going to use the rust eraser. Note how I kind of spread it all over? I just want to get a surface amount of the Wizards on there. Now I'm going to take a Sandflex block, a rust eraser. Here's my used one. I'm going to use this. I'm going to take it on edge and really hit the tooth line first, because you know that's where the rubber hits the road. You don't want any rust or scale on your teeth, and you want to do this obviously before you sharpen the saw. So that's why we do the maintenance and the cleaning up front. I'll get customers that will send in a really filthy saw saying, oh, they'll do the cleaning themselves, missing the point that you got to get your cleaning done before you sharpen the saw. Otherwise, you're going to wind up dulling the teeth, right? So as you can see, it just takes some elbow grease, and you'll notice too, I'm getting a pretty good result here with this rust eraser. Again, you want to go light on this stuff, otherwise you'll just seriously clog the pores of your rust eraser. So less is more at this stage. Now I'm going to do the other side before we move on to the next step. All right, at this point, using the rust eraser, I've done this section of the saw. You can see how it's really starting to brighten up. And again, we're not trying to turn it into a mirror, just want to get rid of the scale. But just look at how effectively this rust eraser, can you see that? It just really, once you're at this stage, you can go gangbusters. Don't be afraid to hit the teeth with the rust eraser. It will abrade the material. You know, this is a consumable supply. Plan on getting a few of them. You can also see I'm starting to raise this edge here, and I'm a little surprised. Before I hit that area too much more vigorously, I'm going to take a new rust eraser and using the corners, kind of work around the edge, all right? I'm not too concerned about it with this saw. I'm not gonna go too ham-handed over that edge, but I'm going to you know, there you go. If you want to save that etch, just be careful working around that area using the sharper corners of a new rust eraser. When you buy these things, get more than a couple if you have a lot of saws too. All right, making pretty good headway. As you can see, this saw is a far cry from what it was. You know, now we've got some metal showing, a fair amount of fresh metal showing. Maybe not fresh, but just clean. So now we're going to take our dirty rag and do the same thing again with this Wizards metal renew stuff, and we're just going to hit it now with the rag. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. I've been demonstrating these techniques here in this video. Here you see I'm kind of wiping, right? But when you're ready to get on it, you got to really put some effort into it, some PSI. Once I've got that down there, really lean in there and scrub the crap out of it. Only this time we're going with a t-shirt. And the next phase is going to be with a clean t-shirt. Right now I'm just getting more of the junk off with this dirty rag. And see how much crap I'm picking up there? Maybe transfer to a cleaner part of the rag and hit it some more. I'll do the other side now and I'll get through there, and then we'll hit the final step on cleaning. Well, would you look at that? We now have a clean saw. I can see far more clean metal than rust stains. That's what success looks like. For a saw that rusty, if you can get it looking like this, you've done your job. That's what right looks like. This saw is so much cleaner and it's going to cut well. And to top it off, here we go. Aerosol delivered beeswax. This is great stuff. It puts like a little invisible shield of beeswax over your metal plate, and it's also good for the handles. So as long as you keep your plate squirted down with this stuff after use, you know, you don't want to squirt it and leave it. Squirt it and wipe it. If you squirt it and leave it, like for those of you living in coastal areas, it will actually etch into the metal plate. So it's important that you wipe it. Just keep going to a clean part of the rag, and there you go. That is how you clean a saw plate. The acid test, take off your gloves and just caress it. Pet your clean saw plate. Feel how incredibly silky smooth that plate is. That's what you're after, all right? A clean saw plate gives you a far better cut every time. All right, so now we're gonna clean our handle, okay? This handle's been kind of dried out. That wood is very dry, time to freshen it up. These fasteners, you can see how I've taken them off and arrayed them in order of where they go, and I keep the nut with the bolt that it corresponded with. I'm gonna cover both, all right? So here's what we're gonna do is here's another product I like to use. It's called Kramer's Best Antique Improver. Been using that through Bad Axe for many years. It's not the end all be all, but it's what works and we like it, right? All this stuff is essentially boiled linseed oil, turpentine, and dissolved beeswax. As you can see, it does separate, so anytime you want to use this stuff, just give it a good shake and get those parts to combine. You can just as easily make your own, but here we go. I do like this stuff. Family-owned business out of, what is it, Arkansas? Something like that. And so a little bit goes a long way. You see how I'm kind of shaking it up. I get a dab of it on a clean t-shirt and I'll just wipe it on across the grain. Pretty simple. I'll bet every one of you have finished wood, so I'm not gonna pretend to convey some sort of secret sauce, Moses on high trick to finishing wood. I just like using my personal taste, you know, traditional materials for a traditional tool. But it's your saw. You use whatever product you want to. But right now, that's what I'm doing. I like working on the handle the very first thing I do before I work on the plate, because it just gives you that much more time for whatever it is you're treating your wood with to soak into the grain. The claim to fame for this company is that you can apply it directly over what's left on a antique piece of wood's finish, and it will preserve that as well, which, okay, I'll go with that. So pretty straightforward. Finish your wood first. If you have a little chunk of paint, you can get a scraper or a knife and just kind of scrape that off, get rid of it. You can also use a plastic scraper. So there it is. We've got our handle pretty much treated. We're just going to set that aside. You can elect to buff this out with carnauba wax if you have a slow speed buffer. It's not critical that you do that. What is critical is that you freshen up the wood. All right, so that's all there is to that. We'll wipe it down some more in a moment. Let's talk about safety real quick, okay? Anytime you're getting boiled linseed oil, turpentine, any kind of fossil fuel on rags, when you're done with that rag, put it inside a fresh Ziploc bag that actually zips shut. Not your favorite Ziploc bag that you've had for years and years. The thing is, there was a reason all those artists back in the 1800s burnt down their studios, is because they would let saturated rags of turpentine and various fossil fuel products sit in a pile. Then they would, once you get some oxygen into the equation, it would spontaneously combust. It almost happened to me once when I wasn't paying attention, and yeah, I can personally vouch for that. So safety first, wipe, then bag. All right, now let's talk about cleaning fasteners. Now at your saw, you do whatever you want. My approach is I want to clean out the slots with the dental pick, all right? And then you usually have some kind of grime right around the perimeter like that. You can kind of nudge some of that off too with your dental pick. You can gently take a 3M pad and kind of hit the surface there. Or you can take it to a sanding sponge and just go to town and turn it back into what naked brass looks like. But my approach is I would prefer to have it look like a well-preserved antique. So here's a little technique I like to use. You chuck your fastener into a drill, and then you get one of your cloths, you know, the same one that you use to treat your handle with, all right, where you've got that mess going on right there, saturated, you know, with the boiled linseed oil, turpentine, beeswax, and just spin the fastener against it. And look at that. It's so easy. Maybe hit it on a dry part. Now what we have is what looks like a well-preserved antique fastener. You can kind of compare the difference of what this looks like to the other fasteners. See, we still retain the character of that old brass fastener, but it no longer looks as crowded out as the others we haven't done yet. All right, so I'm going to hit those now.